Welcome to the Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where every cup tells a story, and every story starts with a sip. Join us on a journey of adventure, camaraderie, and of course, the finest brews, served hot and steeped in mystery. From dragons to ancient legends, we're brewing up more than just coffee. Today's tale begins as the morning mist clings to the trees and Dungeon Brew Tavern stirs to life. The scent of rich coffee drifts through the air, but the usual warmth of the tavern feels different today, quieter, heavier, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Now, grab your mug, settle in, and get ready for the next chapter in our brewing saga. Episode 14, The Warning of Fate Skuld. As dawn stretched over the horizon, Dungeon Brew Tavern was just waking up to another day. Java was already hard at work behind the bar, carefully measuring out a blend for the morning rush, his scales glinting in the soft light. Knive lounged nearby, absently rolling a fire crystal between his claws and grinning to himself about the success of his spicy dragon's breath sauce the night before. Just then, the tavern door creaked open and a figure drifted in, barely making a sound as her cloak whispered against the floor. It was Fate Skuld, the Norn mystic known as the keeper of what was yet to come. Tall and serene, with silver-streaked hair and eyes like clouds before a storm, she moved with an air of mystery that always set everyone on edge, especially Java and Nived, who scrambled to stand straighter.
Good morning, Fate. Care for a morning brew?
Fate's piercing gaze softened just a bit as she glanced toward him.
In a moment, Java. But first, I have a message, one that concerns all of you.
A message, eh? From the heavens, or just from one of your long walks by the river?
Bradicus, who'd just stepped in from a training session outside, raised an eyebrow and ambled over. Fate met his gaze without blinking.
Both, perhaps. I have seen signs.
What kind of signs?
Patches, who had been sorting dried herbs in the corner, perked up, her calico ears twitching with curiosity. Fate's eyes took on a distant look as she pulled a single, thin card from the deck she kept in her cloak. The image on it was dark, showing a lone figure standing before a path that branched in two directions, one leading into mist, the other into fire. Fate murmured, placing the card on the table.
Change is coming. A choice lies before us. This path will demand something of each of you, something that will not be easy to give. Java, you must be vigilant, for you are the heart of this place. Nived, your fire will be tested. Patches, you will need to walk a line between healing and sacrifice. And you, warrior monk, must remember that not every battle is meant to be won. Some are simply meant to be faced with courage.
She turned to Bradicus, her gaze steady. Bradicus chuckled, though a shadow of unease flickered in his eyes.
Cryptic as always, Fate. You sure you can't give us just a hint?
Hints would not make this easier, Bradicus. The choices will come soon enough.
Is it something bad? Should we be worried?
Worry is not useful, Java. Preparation is. Remember the things you value here, and hold to them even when the path grows difficult.
So we just wait for something to go wrong, then? Not exactly helpful.
It is not about waiting. It is about being ready, in mind and in spirit. Each of you has a strength you bring to this place. When the time comes, those strengths will be needed.
The friends exchanged glances, a mixture of apprehension and determination flickering in their eyes. Java looked down at the card on the table, the image of the dark path lingering in his mind.
What do we do until then?
Until then, you live. You do what you do best. Brew coffee. Bring joy. And remember that no path is walked alone.
Fate's gaze swept over each of them, her expression calm. With those final words, Fate took a seat at the table, nodding at Java.
Now, I believe there was mention of a brew?
Java hurried to prepare her a fresh cup, his mind racing with questions he didn't dare ask. The others watched in contemplative silence, each one lost in thoughts about what Fate's warning might mean. But they had no time to ponder for long, as the first patrons of the day began to file in, filling Dungeon Brew Tavern with lively chatter and laughter. The mystic's warning lingered, a quiet whisper at the back of their minds. But for now, they returned to their work, determined to face whatever lay ahead together. The morning rush swept through Dungeon Brew Tavern like the tide, washing away lingering thoughts of fate's cryptic warning, for a time. Java poured cup after cup of rich, steaming brew, the scent of dark roasted beans and spiced cider filling the air. Nived, ever eager to put his own mark on the menu, coaxed a wary patron into trying his latest concoction, honeyed biscuits dusted with a fiery cinnamon blend that left the unfortunate dwarf blinking away tears but nodding in reluctant approval. Bradicus lounged by the entrance, his hands deftly twisting a length of rope in an idle training exercise while keeping watch for anything, or anyone, out of place. Patches weaved through the crowd with a healer's grace, distributing herbs and remedies to the regulars who sought her out for everything from aching joints to sleepless nights. Through it all, Fate sat in her quiet corner, sipping her brew with the measured patience of one who knew that time would unfold as it must. Then the door swung open. The figure who stepped inside was lean and cloaked in road dust, their hood pulled low. They moved with purpose, boots silent against the tavern's worn floorboards, before stopping directly at Fate's table. The air shifted slightly, just enough for Java to notice, enough to make Nived's tail flick with unease. Bradicus set aside his rope. The hooded traveler reached into a satchel and withdrew something wrapped in cloth, setting it down before Fate without a word. The fabric fell away, revealing an old iron key, simple, unadorned, yet pulsing with an undeniable energy. Fate's fingers hovered over it for a moment before she nodded, as though confirming something only she could see.
It has begun.
What has begun?
The door has been found. The choice is near.
What door?
The one you were always meant to open.
A hush fell over the tavern, the morning bustle seeming distant now. Java's wings twitched as he stared at the key, the weight of Fate's earlier words pressing against his chest. Nived scoffed, though his claws tapped absently against the wooden bar.
Right. Because cryptic messages weren't enough for one day. Now we have mysterious keys and vague prophecies. Anything else?
It is no longer a matter of waiting. It is time to prepare
For what?
for the path ahead that you are to choose.
Fate's eyes darkened like storm clouds over distant mountains. The traveler offered a small bow before stepping back into the crowd, vanishing as quietly as they had come, leaving only the key behind. Java hesitated, then reached out, his small claws closing around the cold iron. Night fell over Dungeon Brew Tavern, and the usual hum of laughter and storytelling seemed more subdued than usual. Though the fire crackled warmly in the hearth, the weight of the key in Java's pouch felt colder than iron had any right to be.
So, are we just going to ignore the ominous key, or is someone actually going to suggest we figure out what it unlocks?
Nived finally asked, reclining against the bar with his tail flicking impatiently. Java, glancing toward Fate, who had remained unnervingly quiet since the traveler's visit, slowly answered.
I was going to give it a day.
A day is too long. If the choice is near, then waiting only gives Fate, no offense, Fate, more time to make it for us.
There are old places near the crossroads. Ruins, abandoned shrines, things half forgotten. This key belongs anywhere. I'd wager it's in one of those.
You are astute in your wager, Patches. And if we do not act soon, another may find it first.
Wait, someone else is looking for the door?
There are always those who seek power, fame, or wealth.
Fate's gaze lifted to meet his, and for a moment, he swore he could see the reflection of stars in her eyes. A heavy silence settled over the group before Bradicus clapped his hands together.
Well then. Guess we'd best get moving before someone beats us to it.
Java exhaled, slipping the key from his pouch and turning it over in his claws. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: whatever door this key unlocked, it was meant for them to find. And by dawn, they would be on their way. The night deepened, and the tavern quieted. The last of the patrons had gone, save for a few drowsy regulars nursing their final mugs by the fire. Java sat at the main table, the iron key resting between his small claws. He turned it over, feeling its weight, not just of metal, but of meaning. Fate stood nearby, watching him. She had seen this moment in the swirling threads of fate, yet standing here, watching Java wrestle with the unknown, she found herself feeling something unusual, doubt.
I don't understand. Why me? I just brew coffee.
And yet, you hold the key.
That doesn't tell me anything.
There are things I cannot say, Java. Not because I do not wish to, but because knowing too much too soon could change the course of what must happen. But I can tell you this key is not just for a door. It is for a choice.
A choice?
When the moment comes, you will stand before something greater than yourself. And you will have to decide whether to turn that key or walk away.
Java swallowed. He had always been good at making drinks, at making people comfortable, but this felt too big for him.
What if I choose wrong?
Now, we have a brief break to hear a word from our sponsor.
In the heart of every great quest, there's a hero. And behind every hero, there's their morning brew. At Dungeon Brew Coffee, we craft bold blends for adventurers like you. From the depths of dark roasted caverns to the peaks of spiced mountains, every sip fuels your next move.
Don't forget, it's dragon approved.
Thank you for that reminder, Java. Whether you're battling spreadsheets, chasing dreams, or simply savoring life, Dungeon Brew Coffee is your trusted companion. Unleash the flavor, conquer your day. Visit us online or in the heart of your favorite adventure. Dungeon Brew Coffee, where legends begin.
What if I choose wrong?
The choice itself will not be wrong. It is why you make it that will matter.
Can you at least tell me what's behind the door?
Java stared at the key, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows over its surface. Fate hesitated. There were truths she could not speak, threads of fate too delicate to name. Finally, she whispered,
Something ancient, something powerful, and something that should not fall into the wrong hands.
And I'm supposed to keep it safe?
You are supposed to decide if it should be safe. And that is the weight of the path before you.
You know, cryptic warnings are really hard to digest after a long day of brewing.
Then sleep, little one. The path will still be there in the morning.
Java stared at the key a moment longer, then nodded. He curled up in his usual spot near the counter, tail tucked around him. Fate watched as his breathing slowed, his small form rising and falling with each breath. She lingered there a moment longer than she should have, watching the young dragon who held more in his claws than he realized. She only hoped, when the time came, he would be ready, and that she would not regret letting him walk this path. The tavern was quiet, its usual warmth dimmed to a low hum beneath the flickering lanterns. Java had curled up in his usual spot, but sleep did not come easily. The weight of the iron key pressed against his thoughts as much as it did against his pouch, an anchor pulling at the edges of his mind. And then, at some point between wakefulness and exhaustion, he slipped into a dream. At first, it was nothing, just darkness, vast and endless. Then, slowly, shapes formed. A long, winding path stretched before him, twisting like the steam that rose from a fresh brew. It shimmered, shifting between cobblestone and dirt, stone and mist, as though it couldn't decide what it was meant to be. Java stood at a crossroads. One path led into a dense fog, the air thick with the scent of something sweet yet unfamiliar. The other burned with embers and ash, a deep heat radiating from its unseen source. The two paths pulsed with an unseen force, almost as if they were waiting for him. He took a hesitant step forward, and the world shifted. Suddenly, he was in the tavern, but it wasn't the Dungeon Brew Tavern he knew. This place was hollow, silent. The tables were overturned, cups shattered on the ground. The hearth was nothing more than cold stone. And behind the counter where he usually stood, a door loomed, tall, ancient, humming with power. The key in his pouch grew heavier. He turned toward the door, and for the first time, he wasn't alone. A shadowy figure stood beside it, their form shifting like smoke in the wind. No face, no voice, just an outline of something, watching. Java tried to speak, but no sound came. The figure slowly raised a clawed hand and pointed at the door. Java hesitated. His heart pounded in his chest. Something told him that opening the door would change everything, that beyond it lay something he couldn't take back. Then, the figure spoke, its voice eerily familiar, yet warped, like hearing his own thoughts echoed back to him.
Some doors should remain closed.
A deep, thunderous sound rumbled from behind the door, like something shifting in its sleep. Java stepped back. The shadow turned toward him now, tilting its head. Its form flickered, and for a brief moment, he saw a reflection, his own eyes staring back at him. His own voice whispered in the darkness.
But if not you, then who?
The door shuddered. A brilliant golden light cracked through the edges, pushing against the weight of time itself. Java gasped, stumbling backward, and woke with a start. The tavern was as it should be. The fire still burned low in the hearth, casting gentle shadows along the walls. The scent of lingering coffee and spice filled the air. But his chest was tight, his wings trembling slightly. His claws went to the pouch at his side. The key was still there. Cold. Waiting. Java swallowed hard, glancing around. Fate Skuld stood in the corner, silent as the night, her stormy eyes watching him. She did not speak. She did not need to. Java shivered. The choice was coming. And whether he was ready or not, the door would be waiting. The first light of dawn crept through the windows of Dungeon Brew Tavern, casting long golden beams across the wooden floors. The air was still, holding that delicate hush before the world stirred to life. But in the quiet, the rhythmic gurgle of brewing coffee filled the space, rich and fragrant. Java stood behind the counter, eyes bleary but focused, carefully measuring out a particularly dark roast. His claws trembled only slightly as he worked, the weight of his decision pressing against his chest like the iron key still tucked into his pouch. He had made up his mind. The door was waiting. He couldn't ignore the dream, the warning. He had no map to guide him this time, only the strange pull in his gut, the feeling that something beyond that door was calling to him. And yet, his gaze flicked toward the staircase leading to the rooms where the others still slept. He didn't want to drag them into this. He wasn't even sure what this was. With a slow exhale, he poured himself a cup from the fresh brew. It was strong, dark, and nearly bitter, exactly what he needed to push away the haze of exhaustion. He took a slow sip, letting the heat settle him. Java wasn't sure how long he stood there, staring into his cup, before the sound of quiet footsteps broke the stillness.
You are up early.
Java glanced over his shoulder to find the Norn standing near the bar, her silver-streaked hair catching the morning light. Her gaze flicked to the steaming pot of coffee, then back to him.
Didn't sleep well.
The road calls to you.
Yeah. I suppose that's it.
He moved to gather his travel satchel, but before he could say more to Fate, another voice, this one sounding properly awake and ready for the day, sounded from the stairs.
If you're leaving, don't even think about sneaking off without us.
Bradicus stretched as he descended, his beard slightly mussed from sleep, but his eyes sharp and knowing. Behind him, Patches padded softly down the steps, ears flicking toward Java as she studied him with a healer's attentiveness. Nived was last, emerging with an exaggerated yawn and a flick of his tail. He smirked, though there was something serious behind his eyes.
You really thought we wouldn't join you? Come on, Java. You're our troublemaker. If you're going, we're going.
Java's heart clenched. He had expected resistance, maybe even arguments. But there was none. Just quiet determination from his friends. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding.
I wasn't going to stop you.
Good. Would have been awkward. What with us following you anyway?
And here I was worried you'd need convincing.
So, no map this time?
Nope. No map.
Perfect. Let's get lost.
Java chuckled softly, warmth blooming in his chest. They were really coming with him. By the time the sun fully crested the horizon, The 5 of them stood outside the tavern, their packs filled with supplies, weapons, and, most importantly, plenty of coffee. The doors of Dungeon Brew Tavern were left in the capable hands of their employees from the village, trusted friends who would keep the place running in their absence. Fate stood at the front of the group, her stormy gaze fixed on the road ahead.
Then let us begin.
Java took one last look at the tavern, his home, before stepping forward. The road stretched out before them, and somewhere, waiting at the end, was the door. The fire is low, the mugs are empty, and tonight's tale has come to an end. But the journey is far from over. Thank you for gathering with us at Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where adventure brews with every sip. Join us next time as new challenges arise, mysteries deepen, and the magic of the tavern unfolds. If you enjoyed this taste of adventure, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. We'll save a seat for you at the tavern. See you soon.